Hey everybody. Well, today I'm thinking about starting a wet felting project. Project is way too big of a word. This is a little teeny trial run after watching a really helpful YouTube video that I will link up there. So you can go check it out if you want to. She does a nice quick job of explaining it well. As opposed to me, I tend to ramble. But let me show you. I already have the fiber. It's not like I don't have anything I need to do wet felting. I just find it kind of scary, but I'm going to give it a go. Let me show you the fiber I'm going to use. Now, except for this little white piece, which is some wool that a friend gave me that I actually did turn into a rolag, the rest of this fiber is all the stuff that came from the store Silver Threads and Golden Needles. Yeah, in Franklin, North Carolina, in the U.S. This is the fiber I got out there. A lot of it is not merino, but I think it might do really good at felting. So I'm going to try to combine these colors into something attractive, and maybe even add some other. I've got a little teeny bag of silk somewhere, but I don't know where I've put it, and maybe some little pieces of yarn thrown in for interest. We'll see how it goes. I'm going to try to be experimental and enjoy myself, and if I like it, maybe I'll do some more. Okie dokie. Now I'm just going to give this a go. This is not a tutorial because I've never done this before, so I can't teach anybody how to do this, okay? What you're doing is you're watching me experiment, okay? So from watching, what was it, A.B. Crafty, I think it's her thing. She said, I'm pretty familiar with pulling fleece, and she said, you know, keep it thin. I think I want to do a bluish background. This blue is the blue that I picked to add to some of my Tour de Fleece spinning yarn. When I ran out of the light blue, I grabbed this, and I think that that was a very good thing. I don't want to get too close to my edges here. So I want to keep my, because I'm going to have, there's going to be a lot of water on here. Well, I've put some of that deep purple on there, and I gotta say, that is really pretty. I'm quite pleased with that. Now, starting to get crazy and lay things that way. I do need to go back and do a second layer going the opposite direction up and down, and then it'll be time to begin our felting process. Okay, now that I've got my 2 layers down, I'm going to add some of this fun little yarn and a few other pieces of fiber. Now, so far everything is really kind of bluey, purpley, pinky. There's the yarn I laid down, and this is that pale blue I put on top. And so for a contrast, I'm going to add just some wispiness. That's probably actually too thick. I want everybody to be able to see through this. I do enjoy this part. This is very creative and reminds me of painting a little bit. Don't want to cover up that yarn too much. Okay. Now comes the messy part. Okay, now I've got a piece of mesh. This is fairly open mesh that used to be a laundry bag, you know, for washing your delicates in the washer. And I've got a little spray bottle of very warm water. Now, I'm supposed to really soak this down. And I also need soap, which I've got. Now, this is bar soap, so I really couldn't get it into the spray bottle. I'm going to put it on my hands. You want this to be good and saturated. You're trying to force the air out of all that fiber, and you saw how lofty it was, just full of air. So we're really trying to kind of shove it from the center out. But I want my hands to be good and soapy. And this kind of supports what people were saying, is that when you knit felt, that and you put it in the washer, that you do put laundry detergent in there too, and it makes a difference. So, okay, let's put that a little bit wetter. And then this is rather time consuming. You really have to work it gently. I'm going to make sure it's not sticking to my mesh until it starts to felt and stick together. And then we'll be turning it upside down and upside down again. Got a little more soap. Okay, I'll bring you back in when I'm doing something interesting. Now this, I think I'm going to have to do for quite a while before this felts. Well, I've lifted the mesh up and doing a little bit of very gentle hand felting here. And I can already tell I'm going to love that. I love these explosions of yellow. It almost looks like outer space or something. It's very, very, very fun. Some of the fiber is still, like this is still moving over here. And so I'm supposed to keep on doing this until none of it is shifting around on me. I've got some edges that are still a bit. The thing is that what I'm really making is just a piece of fabric. It's not a very big piece of fabric, but it's all very interesting. It's a little bit smaller on this. I've tried to keep it kind of vaguely rectangular and have tucked in any wispy edges, trying to felt them into the rest of the panel. But I could use this as a piece of fabric. This is kind of the, I guess you'd call this the wrong side of the fabric, although I could go ahead and put other stuff on this side and make it interesting, but I might fold it in half like this and, you know, make it a little purse. Oh, you know what I'd love to turn it into would be the cover of a book. Wouldn't this be fabulous cover for a book? I think that would be so neat. All right, we'll think about that some more, and I'll show it to him when he gets home and see what he. It's not very thick. I think I should have laid down more base fiber before I did the other. I do think it's important to put this yarn, kind of ribbony yarn that I put in for interest. It is not wool, as far as I know. And so in order for it to get felted into the fabric, it needs to be between wools. So it needs to have the base wool underneath, and it needs to have the ornamental wool on top, and then it'll get held down better. Okay, I'm going to press some of that soap out. I'm going to watch the video again and see what I do next. Now that all the fiber seems to be fairly stationary, it's time to roll the felting. Now, they say to use a pool noodle. My pool noodle is really the really big one. It was very long. I just chopped this off. But you're supposed to roll this up, and then you're going to felt or agitate the fiber by rolling it like this, and you're supposed to get it in one spot and do it 25 times in that spot, and then rotate till you've done it about 100 times all the way around. Now I did my 100 gentle rolls. Just, you don't roll it all the way around, just the length of your hand. And now I've rotated my pool noodle so that instead of being this way, it's the long way of my little piece. It's really a very small piece. It's probably 10 by 7 inches. So anyway, now I'm going to do the other way. The felted piece doesn't even wrap all the way around the pool noodle, but I'm still going to not apply too much pressure. Apparently the noodle is supposed to do the work, and I'm just going to do this about 100 times going this way. Now apparently there are a lot of ways, methods, techniques for felting or fulling fiber like this. Apparently when you are actually shrinking it down, what you're doing is fulling. But this is one, I find this very satisfying. This is just a rolling pin. I'm still keeping the bubble wrap underneath the fiber piece, but I've taken away the little mesh top. I like this better than that pool noodle because it was just so big. This is a very nice size. So it's really staying together quite well. I'm going to turn it this way and roll this way. So if you're not much of a baker, but you'd like to use a rolling pin, this might be for you. I'm sorry, the camera must be rather wobbly because I have it set on the table that I'm actually rolling on, of course. This also squeezes a lot of the water and soap out of it. Most of the soap seems to have gone. At least the bubbles have, I'll say that. I think this rolling pin must be really effective. That really feels like a piece of fabric. I'm going to do it a little bit these other two ways, the short way, and then I'm going to do something called throwing. And no, this is not pottery. Apparently you can wad up this piece of fabric. I'm squeeze some of that water and soap out. And you can wad it up to help to full it or felt it. You can also throw it. You can wad it up like this and throw it at the table. I find that very satisfying. I really don't know why that would have much impact on it, but apparently it does. Well, I know that there's still soap in there, and now I need to watch the little boy. What do you think, though? I need to watch the video and see about that. I think we just rinse it out. I really like that a lot. I hope those little pieces of yarn stay on there. They don't appear to be moving. But the actual wool, it's very good. All right, I'll bring you back later. All right, so there it is, still wet and soapy. And now I'm going to need to rinse it out. And boy, doesn't that look like outer space. I'm going to rinse it out in some a little bit of water, warm water that has a little bit of vinegar in it to get the acidic quality of the wool back to where it should be, which is an interesting point. I've got one little piece of thread in there. I noticed that before. There we go. I'm rather pleased. So here it is, close up. I think that's pretty fun. And even though these look like they're just sitting on top, they're actually felted all the way into the fabric. When I run my finger over them, they don't move. Isn't that interesting? It has a wonderful three-dimensional quality to it. Yes, that was very fun, and I imagine if I can figure out what to do with wet felting and how to sell these pieces, then I will be doing more of this. One last tiny little thing, I did decide to put this as a book cover on that the little brown book. I think I showed you that. Can't remember what I filmed and what I haven't. At first, I was talking to Adam about it, and I wanted him to make a book, but he's too busy. Then I found this little book, which was just the right size for this piece of wet felting. Yeah, I really like how that turned out. And I was going to use some fabric glue to glue this onto the front of the book. But of course, then if I ever fill up the book, which is unlikely, then I would have to, I guess, throw out the cover, whatever. But then I thought, well, instead of gluing it, why don't I sew it? Not into the book, but just tack down the corners. So I did. I tacked down this corner, and I tacked down that corner. I sewed it to itself, but not to the book. And the same on the other two corners. And then I tucked in the top of the spine and the bottom of the spine and tacked that down too. Now, it's not a perfect job. I'm not really after perfection. But because this isn't, I mean, I could glue that, but again, I don't want to glue it. But I think over time that will stay in, and having the two spines kind of keeps this tidy enough. So I like that, and it feels good. I love the feeling of felted wool. Anyway, so I thought I'd show you what happened with the first piece of felting, and now it has a useful purpose.